What's up? So I know I haven't posted like vlogs or even a lot of podcasts lately, and I know this channel's still very small. It's mostly just my friends, people I've worked with, colleagues, family, and viewers like you who have just found me, decided to hit subscribe. So I wanted to put this episode out now because hanging out with the puppy, but I think my vision of what I wanted has changed. I've talked to a lot of fighters, and it's hard to gain access to people for a long period of time that are very media oriented per se. So I found myself unable to always really connect with these guys, which really sucks. I've had some great, amazing conversations. I've made friends with a lot of big name fighters because of this podcast, but I need to stand by what I said in episode 1, that everyone has a fight, and I truly believe that everyone's story can help someone. So this story is about an amazing man who started a podcast called Austism Rocks and Rolls, and he is autistic. I wasn't sure how it was going to go, but it went amazing. He's a great dude, and the best part is it helped me understand some of my friends better. I have a couple friends that are on the spectrum, and having this opportunity to sit down and speak with somebody openly without worry about like offending them or, you know, crossing lines and all that shit was amazing. So we sat down, we had a conversation, and I learned a lot. And what I learned is that we all have a fight. We're all the same, you know. We all have the same insecurities. We all believe we're the most important person in the room when we walk in. It's not a AA alcoholics thing like we're taught. That's just human nature. We're all just trying to figure some things out. We all live inside of our heads. And I think it's conversations like this that really help me understand that nothing I do is original. Everybody's been through something. Everybody can help. And everybody has a story. So I'm going to continue my walk. But if you could, please hit the subscribe button. It doesn't take more than less than a second. I promise not to spam you with a bunch of shit. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, and leave a comment. It helps out in the algorithm. I'd like to see some of these videos get more airtime because I feel like more people could actually benefit from these. So while I'm out in this beautiful little wooded area that we have by our living area, our complex, I'm going to enjoy myself, and I hope that you enjoy this episode with me. And again, hit subscribe. Every detail is going to be listed below where you can reach both of us. Links to Austism Rocks and Rolls, the podcast, and much more. So that's it for today, guys, and thanks for tuning in.
For my people, I do it for the love. I am a fighter. I fight off the dark side. Dig through the landslide to find your love. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and just like that, we are good to go. So today we got Sam Mitchell on the podcast, everybody, and this one's been exciting for me. Traditionally, we have a lot of fighters coming on or people within the combat world, and I've been wanting to have more conversations with like regular people because I've learned we all have a fight. We all have something that we're struggling with and that we're trying to overcome, and we all have our own version of success. And Sam has been able to overcome quite a few things. And I don't want to get into a story too much, let him talk about it. But yeah, so let's just kind of dive into it. Sam, thanks for coming on and welcome to the show.
Not a problem, buddy. Good to be here.
So I kind of just want to jump into it a little bit because you're also a podcaster. You have a website and you do like speeches and things like that. And the thing that sets you apart from the I don't want to say the traditional podcaster, but you were given a special gift to where you actually have autism, and so your autism podcast is a what was it called again? It's Autism Rocks and Rolls, or
Yep, you got it. You
yep,
nailed the title, buddy.
yeah. And so I was checking out your website, and it's I love how you're able to kind of break it down to understand kind of from an outside perspective how to actually look at autism. So I was hoping that we could kind of dive into a little bit into maybe start at your childhood and kind of see where you had some difficulties that you weren't quite sure why you had them, and kind of just let's start talking about your story. Let's dive into it.
All right. Well, my story begins on July 21st, 22, where I was diagnosed with autism. At first, I saw it as a curse. I won't lie to you there. My family definitely believed in me no matter what I did. So I had a very supportful family from the beginning. And I'm still and always will be thankful for that. However, it was honestly a blessing in disguise because I thought differently. I was more creative outside of the box. I processed information very unusual than some others who would probably process the algebra equation, but I just couldn't get past it. But it was still a blessing in disguise since I was a creator and thought outside of the box to where I started my own podcast and started early with Autism Rocks and Rolls.
Mm-hmm. So what gave? Because I know trying to figure out how to word this because I feel like one of my best friends, he's autistic, and he told me that pretty much like right away when we met, and there was a lot of friction between us. I was just in a really weird spot in my life where I was very aggressive, and so kind of becoming friends with him, I was forced to kind of learn, you know, to be a little bit more accepting on my end. But he's never had an issue putting himself out there, you know, like actually being who he is and saying how he feels, even if it's not politically correct or, you know, it may offend some people, that's who he is. And I feel like that's a superpower, especially in the podcasting world. Do you feel like you've kind of used that to your advantage, or have you had any like pushback when it comes to like maybe being able to see things differently?
Oh, I've had pushbacks. I mean, I can't do math for life. I mean, that was an example I said earlier, but there's a lot of creative parts to it. There's a lot of gifts, but whatever that might be, it might be. So maybe for me, it was podcasting. For the next guy, it could be music. I know I've had a former America's Got Talent contestant, Jacob Velasquez, on the show. PDD-NOS, how do you say? PD, pervasive development disorder, not otherwise specified. And from the time he was young, all he wanted to do was music. So that was his special interest and his special talent that got him interested. And you know where it led him? On a show that has 6 million views. Let's see. I can think of another probably person on the top of my head is there's someone else. Oh, Luis Marinucci. He is a scuba diver and he does diving shows. Well, he gets to perform in front of the world and travel and tens and thousands of people. So you're telling me we're not successful because we were told that we're going to be in the bed and we're obsessing, which what I call practicing for future skills, is not taking us anywhere. Try again.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. So I've Throughout this podcast that I started this a few years ago when I was going through a lot of medical issues. Like I was being flown all over the country. I was barely able to walk. They gave up and just diagnosed me with fibromyalgia and completely wrong. Threw me on all these drugs and basically just said, deal with it. Um, that made me want. Now I have another idea with that I really want to talk about. So in in the beginning, kind of when your parents or you or a doctor is saying that something isn't aligning correctly, what is that like to be the subject matter of other people's conversations? Because from my perspective, being the traditional dumb white guy, like I've inherently made comments and conversations growing up, like irresponsibly, about people with autism and literally everything. It's just that was unfortunately part of my upbringing. And now growing up, I see that I was severely wrong and I missed out on so many opportunities to meet people and have amazing conversations. So, is there any way that you can kind of expand on that a little bit to where you started going through the medical process of actually going through the diagnosing and then how that felt to be almost the subject matter? Because the medical system can make you feel like a number at times and you're just kind of pushed through like cattle.
Well, that'll be hard to explain since I was diagnosed at 4 and I've
Okay.
slept since then. So kind of hard to remember at that day and age, but I can tell you more and more people getting diagnosed. We went from 1 in 49 to 1 in 29 children or people in the world getting diagnosed with the autism spectrum.
Wait,
So
what was that
that's an
again?
answer.
1 in
1 in,
29?
I think it's something
Wow.
like that. It's definitely more prevalent. We went from 1 in 45 to 1 in something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think 29. You might have to look that up. Don't take my word on that one,
Yeah,
but
sure.
it's around there. But I can tell you this from a young age, I didn't like loud noises, hated them. Every time you would be hearing fireworks on 4th of July, it's not like that now. I love pyro and probably act like an idiot with it. But I would be playing We Play in the basement just so I can noise out the loud noise. I couldn't go to game show buzzers, basketball games because of the loud buzzers. And I love going to wrestling shows. I'm a big pro wrestling fan. It's probably one of my special interests
Okay.
and studying the knowledge of it. But I love going to shows. But when that pyro went off, it was too loud for me. I didn't mind some pyro, but there were some that were way too loud. I literally go hide in the bathroom. Now, not crawl in there and play hide and seek,
Right,
but
yeah.
I'd sit in the stall and literally just wait it out until that pyro went off.
Kind of
Because
create like a safe space type thing.
yeah, and the cool
Yeah.
part was like I knew I was happy because I've studied for so long. I'm like, oh, okay, he's probably gonna come out because in wrestling that's what they do. So I'm like, mom, he's gonna come out here in a minute. I can already tell he has loud pyro. Let's hit the bathroom.
Really? So, when you were going through, did you do traditional schooling, like going through like the public school system, or what was that like for you?
Yeah, my school's life. There was a lot of my friends who were in special ed and were in there full time. Mine was a little different. Mine was okay. Well, it depends. Elementary, it was the classroom like usual. But middle school, it was like I'd be in the inclusion classrooms where the teachers would come to me almost. So like the teachers' aides, they'd be in the classroom with you in order to help.
Okay.
And I still actually keep in touch. I probably would not have survived middle school if it wasn't for her. I'll just give her a shout out right now. She probably won't get care, but Miss White was probably my lifesaver in middle school,
Let's go,
and she
Miss
was
White.
really. And I guess I'll shout out to another one of my high school teachers, Miss Reagan. Miss Reagan was a lifesaver in the high school because the system I worked in the school was you would get the lesson, like you would take the notes, you would do the labs, or you would do your own thing. But if you
Hmm.
need that extra boost, like extra time on tests, listening to music while studying, you could chew on candy while studying, and they would let that by because you can't do that in a regular classroom clearly because you get in trouble.
Right.
But with that room in particular, that was just kind of like an extra boost with if you need a little bit of extra help. It wasn't like special needs classes where, all right, slow down the process permanently, taking a day at a time, end of story. This was like, oh, okay, you could do the general, take the information. However, you just need a little push, like, okay, maybe you need to be retaught it a tiny bit more because I'm a very slow learner. When it comes to certain subjects. Now, English, I can go pretty fast. Bada bing, bada boom, good. But math, it's gonna take a little while. And test, I'm very slow with. I have bad test anxiety.
Yeah, so I actually just finished my undergrad. So I'm in my late 30s, and about 5 years ago, May 15th, I went to rehab. I had gotten involved in way too many painkillers, and I was partying and drinking a lot. And like my life was just kind of falling apart, and I wanted to change. And so something that I really wanted to do was to try to see how far I could go, like in life, like how successful I could get while also trying to help people. And so the only way I could think of doing that was to go back to college. I had tried multiple times, never succeeded. I had either dropped out or failed out every time. And I finally decided, maybe I should talk to somebody. And they're like, "You are very ADHD, like horrible, like very bad." And so they gave me a double testing time and allowed me to go to a little separate room that was apart from everybody else. So that way I didn't have distractions. Because for me, if there's music going on, I can't pay attention to two different things. And whatever I'm supposed to be paying attention on falls to the backside, to the background noise. So it's completely opposite of you, but that took a lot of like putting my ego aside to be able to even decide that that was something that I was going to do, because I felt like being different was a bad thing. And one of the things that I've always admired about every person that I've met with autism is they never view it that way. I've never heard somebody really view it from a negative standpoint. Is that kind of the case with you, or do you feel like there is some sort of negativity with it?
Well, I mean, I've had some days where I have had autism. I'm in the mix, so most of the people, right? It's not viewed as a bad thing.
Mhm.
But I don't view any condition as a bad thing just because I think there's a special talent. Period. Whether it's Down syndrome, OCD, ADHD, and I relate with ADHD too, by the way, because I have that as well. I have to take Adderall for that, and Adderall is my lifesaver for
Yep.
ADHD. Just FYI. Yeah,
Yep.
love that, love Adderall. But anyway, um, the question you were asking about, I view it as bad. I mean, I don't for the majority of days, but the past still bites me in the butt where I still get kind of down, a little defensive because I've had people exclude me and stereotyping. And there are days where I think, man, everyone is against me. But I don't bring that upon my other people because one, why do that when they can't do a damn thing about it? And two, it's none of their business.
Sure. So how do you feel like relationships in general? Do you feel like you've been able to like lay down like the solid foundation for like some really good friendships and like lifelong relationships, or is that something that having autism kind of puts a wedge in between?
It can't put a wedge. I mean, I've still have said stuff to my buddies, and they've had to scratch their head. But if they're good people, they'll slide it off. And thankfully, I've had some good people that slide it off. Now, I'm not just talking about like my immediate family, my mother, father, grandparents.
Sure.
I'm talking about people who are not blood, who are kind of became buddies. I turned into blood. And I'm thankful for it, man, because 15 years ago, I would have never dreamt I would have had my amigos that I had today.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
would have thought I would have been the kid in the basement playing video games because I assume, oh, hey, this guy can't do social relationships. His buddy's going to be Xbox 360. And if that's all they have, though, that's good. Because, look, I know video games are not our buddies sometimes. Technology is a real pain in the butt. But if their buddy is technology and that's the only buddy they have, so be it. Because, in my opinion, they need an escape, whether it's through a person or through a item.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like one of the biggest things that I learned in going through rehab and doing like the 12-step program is you really need somebody else that's experienced what you've experienced, or that at least has the mind open enough to be able to hear what you're saying. And so you are right. Even if it's just having somebody across the world that you can talk to on Xbox, being able to have those conversations, like those vulnerable conversations, like, hey, this is how I'm feeling type thing, that can change your day to make it so much more positive. So there definitely should be no negative connotation on anybody and their relationships online or anything like that. One thing that I've been super curious about is how you kind of pivoted into podcasting, because you don't have like my podcast is not large by any stretch of the imagination. But yours is not small. Like, you have a very good following. You have amazing information on your website. You have great guests. Walk me through the process of like the ideology of starting this thing up until now. I believe you have an event coming up. Or you just had it, or kind
Yeah,
of.
I can talk about that. So real quick though, before I do, I
Okay.
just want to let you know, I don't have like alcoholism, or I haven't had a binge addiction, but I've
Mhm.
had family members who have had to battle with alcoholism, and I've seen the trouble it comes with addiction. So if you have any questions with that, I mean, I'm not trying to tell you like, hey, let's shift the interview to that.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just telling you, if you have any questions with that, give me a holler and I'll answer them.
All
But as
right.
far as your other question, the podcast. So I'll just tell you from the start. So what happened was we had this little event called Riley Dance Marathon, and it goes to a lot of schools. My best friend's involved with it, and our school had one. And Riley is a hospital where sick kids go, almost like really ill kids, like who probably won't make it. They're on borrowed time,
Okay.
and I've always had respect for it because of just the things they're doing, and it's definitely a lot of history making. So I would for sure recommend going to one of those there, come to your school. But in my school, I saw these people come down with cameras. A couple of buddies who I weren't very close to, but I knew were acquaintances of mine, and a school board member. And I looked and I thought, well, what is this? So because I didn't have any guts at the time, I asked Mom, could you talk to them and just see what they're doing? And they said, okay. So she did. The mentor said, okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to definitely hop on. I think you'd be a good fit. Join next year, though, because you have a lot of projects. Totally chill with that. Fast forward to next year, I joined the first year. That's why I found the podcasting and loved it. It clicked. I thought, man, I could do this. But I realized soon, junior year, shoot, I ain't gonna be in school forever. I ain't gonna graduate. I want to continue these skills. So the only way I knew to continue my skills was to start my own podcast, and that was when Autism Rocks and Rolls was born. So that was the podcast part. But as far as your event, I was kind of expecting your podcast to be the way yours is, like a few downloads here and there, and whoop de doo. Little did I know, though, it grew into something big because we started getting sponsors. We got a board of 8, and then we started playing events and like other events that were successful. And then I started doing international motivational speaking. People started hearing the message where I spoke in Oklahoma, Orlando, and Washington, D.C. Now, the event you were talking about earlier, we're having an ARAR Summerfest at a pumpkin patch concert venue. It's a pretty cool place. I love it. It's called the Fowler Pumpkin Patch. It's a wedding barn, but during the sun, they kind of turn into an outdoor concert venue. It's pretty cool. But we're having live music with the All Access Band and Indianapolis' own Duke Tomato, and having a lot of fun festivities and a adult scavenger hunt.
What's involved in an adult scavenger hunt?
Well, it's basically like, so you're gonna go in the scavenger hunt, right? You're gonna find, we were gonna do like a stuffed animal scavenger hunt, but then I realized that wouldn't work. So it's gonna be like a Duke Tomato scavenger hunt almost. So we're gonna do songs that represent him. So tie you up, it'll be a wooden little guy, and if you find the wooden little guy, you win your prize, and that could be something as small to a gift card at a restaurant or an ultimate prize, which we're still trying to find.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing, man. Yeah, I know, like, when I started this podcast, it was I didn't have anybody that I could speak to. Like, I didn't have people that had gone through like horrible situations, that I felt comfortable speaking to from like a vulnerable place, of like, this is how this is making me feel, or whatever. And so instead of doing the smart thing and starting therapy, I started a podcast. And it was literally just to try to have conversations with people that had gotten successful to find out how they made it through, like the times of war in their life. And so for me, this has always been something of, I need the story to be interesting for me, and it's never been about like trying to get numbers or anything like that. It's 100%, does the story interest me, and do I feel like that this can actually help somebody in the future? To whereas your podcast is the same exact same premise. You just blew up, and now you're traveling all over doing, like you said, doing these speaking engagements and everything like that. What is that like, starting off as, like, you're just a dude hanging out, with like a microphone and a laptop trying to start this hobby, and it blows up into what it is today? And he's gone. Sam Mitchell.
I'm here. Don't worry. My
There you go.
technology.
It's the internet, man. It happens all the time.
Yeah. Technology, gotta love it some days. But I heard your question about how I like figured out from going from here to here.
Yeah.
It was very unexpected because this was mainly just to be something for me, like just very therapy, telling a few people there, hey, here and there, you're doing great. These are my stories. Let me tell you why these are important and why these behaviors happen. The goal was to make one person happy. So if I could change one person's life, I'm happy. But I think I've done a little more than that, which I said was very unexpected. But it's so weird in so many unexplainable ways because for 15 years, no one was listening to me. That was the war I was battling. Heck, and I still battle it. I'm still bleeding almost from gunshot wounds. When I say gunshot wounds, I mean the exclusion, bam, bam, gunshot wounds.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
So I'm still
go ahead.
bleeding, but I'm still helping, and I'm bleeding less. The cracks in the armor are now kind of fading.
So how big has your podcast gotten to this point?
15K downloads, my friend. But that's the prizes because from society's view, I was never meant to be a guy in the autism community. I was never meant to be someone who was supposed to do something good for the world. I was even meant to probably go to school, but yet here I am.
Yeah. And 50K is just the start. Like once you start getting those numbers, they start doubling and tripling, and you're going to find yourself doing a lot more speaking engagements and being able to touch a lot more people and help a lot more people. Do you feel like there's any pressure on you at all, almost as if you are like a spokesman for the autism community?
Oh, yeah, but there's a lot of people out there who are L spokesman community. But here's the kicker. I love being an advocate for autism, but I want to do more than that. I want to be an advocate for mental health, an advocate for alcoholism, an advocate for any other condition too. So for me, what separates me from others really isn't autism, because they just do autism. I do autism plus other conditions.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's clear that you're very good at what you do. Like this is obviously something you're going to continue doing, like on the professional side. Let's kind of like dive into the personal side of your story a little bit. So you've graduated high school and you've started this podcast and you're starting to gain a following. What goes through your mind when you're having these interviews and before you hit upload? Is there any fear of, judgment or just anything along those lines? Because even for myself, I have this project I've been working on for months. It's basically done. I am terrified of putting it out, just because of the subject matter. And it's one of my very close friends is a trans man, and we got like 3 cameras, lights, wireless mics, like did the whole thing, set it up, I edited it, and I'm terrified of putting it out because of the backlash of, like what people will say, or is this going to affect me in law school next year and having like all these like doubts that I know are not real, but they're very real to me. Do you experience that at all? Or are you able to just kind of like set that aside and allow you to be who you really are?
Yeah, I would say so. It's hard to do that though some days still because like I said, I still live in the past. The past ain't going away. I've tried to bury it, but it's just not going to happen.
Do you do you have to go through a process daily? Like, are you able to just like wake up and start your day? Or do you have like a checklist of things that like, all right, I wake up, brush my teeth, make the bed, you know, like journal, set my intentions. Do you have like a set list that you go through on a daily basis to kind of make yourself comfortable? Or is it just kind of by the seat of your pants?
Some would see the pants, but let me just show you something. This might answer your question. I think a little visual aid might help you out here.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's see if I can find a way to turn the camera. Nope, I cannot. All right, here, I'll show you. Does this answer your question?
Perfectly. Yeah.
That's my little get to do list. So recently I've had a lot of like medicine. So the XR shortage with Adderall, it's a pain in the butt to deal with. And if I don't have that, I'm bouncy, like pretty bouncy, and it is a seat of the pants. But I hate it, absolutely hate it. I'm like, no, we need to have at least. I need to know what to do for the day. I need. I don't have to have a Mr. Routine. I used to be like that, where you can't tell me if we're going to Walmart and you change it. No, I used to be like that, but not anymore. I'm pretty laid back with stuff that aren't important to me. But when it comes to some stuff that are very important to me, like the podcast, my job, education, and my family, no, all hands are off on that.
Hmm. So how are you able to change that of not getting upset when plans change? Because that's not something that just happens overnight. You know, that's a lot of self work that you had to do. What did you have to do to be able to kind of make that change or manipulation of your personality?
Well, with stuff I'm not laid back on, like those three things, with the three things I mentioned earlier, I'm not. I panic still if one of those three things screw up. Now, clearly they don't. I'm very tedious and kind of strict on it. But when something like traveling and the plane delays, I I'm pretty bad at it when it comes to like a work trip. Like if I'm traveling to Florida to speak, yeah, I'm not pretty comfortable with that. I panic with that. But if it's a vacation, I'm pretty chilling because I've learned we don't need to be there. If we need to be there, then it's a whole different ball game. But
Yeah.
if we don't need to be there, there's no point in stressing.
Yeah, I feel like this is definitely something that can help some people, potentially even myself. You spoke about traveling for a work trip and kind of like feeling the weight of that, you know, like the pressure and you know, like it is important. What how are you going through that? And kind of because anybody can come up with an excuse to push something off, to not do something, you know, like there's a million different things that you can do. What do you specifically do to overcome that stress and anxiety to even get on the plane, let alone coming up to stepping onto the stage, being mic'd up in front of thousands of people and having these conversations?
It's pretty easy once you learn that after you don't care others think of you within reason. I don't think within reason clearly, but I think that's my own family too. Sorry, but not really.
Yeah.
But anyway, um, with not caring others think of you, once you get to that point and you can block the thoughts of, oh, this guy is sleeping through my speech because he's bored. Who cares if he's bored? There might be someone else who is like mind blown. Focus on that more, man.
So is this a
Focus on the mind
cognitive?
blowers.
This sounds like it's something that you've
Yeah,
had to
focus
work
more on the.
on.
It is. Oh, it is. I used to be a people pleaser, and if I didn't please them enough, I'd go even further. But then I realized people pleasing wasn't getting me anywhere. I went the other way, and once I did, I don't know how to explain it, but a weight was lifted off my shoulders.
It's crazy hearing you say these things because going through like a 12-step program, you learn a lot about people pleasing and manipulation of other people and things like that. And I found out that throughout that process that I was also a people pleaser, that it was, I had no self-worth. So my worth was, what could I do to make you happy? Like, what can I give you? And a lot of times that put me in a position to where I would have less than just to give you more, so that way I could feel kind of like more important. And that's a lengthy process of working through, and something that I'm still dealing with today. And it sounds like you were able to recognize it and just be like, all right, like, I did this, now I need to stop. Was it as simple as that, or is it a longer process, do you feel like?
It's a longer process, I think, to get to where I was and where you can be. But once you get there, you feel so good because you worked your butt off, and it's just like, oh my goodness, you feel like you're on top of the world.
Yeah. So do a lot of these problems, or I wouldn't say problems, do a lot of the issues that you feel like with anxiety and things like that, do they creep into your personal relationships when, like, meeting somebody new or trying to go out on a date, anything like that nature?
Oh yeah, I have real bad social anxiety, and every time I socialize, you gotta leave me the heck alone for 5 minutes. I need some mental prep for that, and I still have to mental prep for a lot of things. I have to mental prep for mock speeches that I do, and I'm doing one Wednesday, so that's an example right there. I had to prep for an outing with my best friend, who I've known and trust, and not trust because I have trust issues as well, but known and loved for since since we were in diapers. I still have to mental prep.
I, f- I guess I'm just trying to find, because I feel like everybody could use these tools, like taking 5 minutes of just like, all right, this is what I'm doing and this is what I'm about to go do, and setting your intentions and things like that. It feels like you're not really doing anything like severely different than a person that hasn't been diagnosed with autism. So I guess I'm just trying to figure out, like, what really is the difference? Because it seems
Oh,
like you're
I could,
very in
I
tune.
could,
Yeah,
I
go ahead.
hear that a lot. I'll tell you that. So the difference is, I've heard this a lot, and you're going to hear this many times with high level functioning on the spectrum, or some people call it level three. I believe that we are very capable of understanding, but when you live with me, you'll be like, oh, okay. For example, my apartment, we don't, I'm not the biggest, I'm not Mr. Mop. So I'm not saying I'm a clean freak, but I'm not saying I'm a dirty freak, but I can't tell, okay, is this dirty enough to clean my house, or is it, or can it wait a week?
Sure.
Or I can't cook an egg. I've tried cooking. The problem is the darn freaking recipe books ain't specific enough. They say turn the preheat the oven. Preheat it to what? I mean, you can say preheat at 350 degrees, but then they say pour it all and batter and then do this and then do this all in one step. No, they need to be more specific. So maybe it says whisk eggs, pour milk, stir it up. No, it needs to be step one, put the eggs in. Step two, pour the milk in. Step three, whisk it up. Don't combine it all in one step. Be very specific, and let's take one thing at a time here.
So do you feel like, I feel like I'm kind of getting a better understanding of this. If you were to have the same set of directions written down or a video of it being done, would you be able to, like with the video, pick it up instantly, being able to see it and hear it?
If they edited a how to video, no. But the how to video was live and there was no edits or cuts, sure.
All right. All right. Yeah, no, this is just so interesting to me. It's and I don't really mean interesting. It's just it's a very different conversation. So there's a few more things that I want to kind of bring up, and then I can let you go here in a little bit. But bullying is something that I wanted to talk about, because I know, like, I'm 38, so I grew up like when we were playing games that you're not even allowed to say what they are anymore. Like at recess of school, and like holding people's arms and having you run into them and try, like, we had people's breaking arms all the time, and like school in the 90s was just insane. And so it was not uncommon to bully the person that was different. It was actually very common. And so looking at it now, I'm not proud of it at all. And I realized that a lot of the reasons why I was doing it is because I was being bullied for being the poor kid. Like I wasn't able to go to a lot of the things the other kids went to, or, play the sports they did and hang out and go to the parties and things like that, because we didn't have the money. And so my way of trying to feel like I fit in was to bully people who I felt had less than I did, or that had like issues or characteristics that were different to me. I gotta believe that you've experienced that at some point in your life, and I'm just curious how that affects you, like then, and how that affects you now.
Okay, well, first of all, I admire the fact that you admit that because I know there are lots of boys that will not. But
Yeah.
second, to go back to your question, as I said, I still live in that past. And in those days, I feel worthless. I feel like I did back in sixth grade, which was felt like shit.
Mhm. Does it still happen? Like, do you ever worry about going into a social situation and being singled out and being like the blunt of jokes? Does that ever cross your mind, or are you very okay with, who you are, and you don't have to worry about those things?
Oh, I still worry about those things, but it's happened a lot. Even my buddies, sometimes they'll still mingle me out unintentionally. And it's not on purpose. I know that. But still, it's like, guys, you guys know I've been excluded for 15 years. Come on now.
Yeah, yeah, that has to suck. What is dating life like for you?
Well, I mean, I believe in raw, authentic dating. So I am single. And there's a lot of people out there with socializing on the autism spectrum that like it and don't like it because there's a lot of drama involved. And my issue with the dating is there's a lot of trust and involved. And I have trust issues as well.
Yeah,
And I get nervous, like typical feelings. But I believe in, like I said, growing organically. So I need to know you for a while if we're gonna take our relationship to the next level.
sure. Yeah, it seems like we've kind of gotten in a day and time to where you can meet somebody just by swiping right or left and end up in their bed 4 hours later and immediately jump into a 2 year long relationship, when in reality you had no idea who that person was at all. You only know their intentions was to have fun for that night. And so it doesn't seem like your way of thinking is by any means wrong. It's almost like the proper way of doing things. You go back to like the 50s and 60s, like, our grandparents and great grandparents, like they never got divorced. They had very long courtships, and they realized that the person that they're picking is also like their partner in war, in the battle of life. And so going through that organic growth is a very good thing. Have you been able to find any relationships that you've been a part of that just didn't work out, or are you very kind of like picky or standoffish when it comes to those?
And I'm nitpicky, but I'm not gonna. But I'm not picky when it comes to your look. I'm picky when it comes to your personality. If you're, I can care less if you're slim, curvy, thin with meat, or even overweight. I don't care as long as you're got a good heart and a good soul. I'll look at that, and then let's see what we have in common. And if it takes off, it takes off.
Yeah. I gotta imagine through the podcast and, oh, excuse me, the your speaking engagements and your social media presence and everything, I gotta feel like it's brought some attention to you, like that you may not have expected. Can you kind of walk me through the process of starting to gain notoriety and have people know who you are and be able to speak vulnerably about the things that you witness and experience?
Well, gaining notoriety. I'm not a guy who likes to brag about that just because. I mean, I don't consider it notoriety. I consider it just a person. I guess I don't know what word, but consider like word definition, just a person who wants to do something good. So I guess a humanitarian, I guess that's the fancy word they're using these days. So I just like to consider myself a humanitarian, and I'm just trying to do something good in my little part of the community. And that's
Yeah.
still the goal to this day. Even though if I lose listeners in Los Angeles, but the community still has my back, then we're good. Heck, if my parents are the only two listeners for now, I'm okay with that because it's helping them out.
Yeah. So let's start. Let's talk about the actual process of starting the podcast, and then another question I think that I got lined up for you, because I've had a lot of people ask. Like you can go on Facebook and there's all sorts of podcasting groups, and it seems like everybody wants to know what mic you're supposed to have, and the best editing software and all this stuff. When in reality, you just have to start with what you have. What was the process for you like of starting and publishing your first episode?
Well, I had to figure out what I wanted to do because I wanted to take it off the right way, but I didn't want to go into a big basis. Yeah, I didn't want to start on a topic because I really want to just be like, all right, hey guys, how you guys doing? My name's Sam. Great to meet you. But I didn't know a way to do that. So I just thought, well, let's just introduce ourselves. So I introduced it. I wasn't as nervous, but I had a very monotone voice, and I still kind of do. But as if you listen to the first one back to the latest one, I definitely have evolved with more energy and more ideas as
Hmm.
well. So we can put it that. But that went well. What I do with that is I use Audacity, and I kind of known that since in the media club, that's what we use. So I kind of continue the tradition,
Sure.
and it works great. Love Audacity. Save it
And
up,
it's
and
free.
then yeah, it really is. Everything's better free. Put it
Yeah.
down, publish it in Podbean, wait to load, come up with the catchy title, catchy description, and I like to schedule them because I don't want to really wait for the YouTube video because I also do YouTube videos with the audio and the video now, like video of the interviews. I used to not, but now I do.
Okay.
So that's what I do. I like to schedule around 1 in the morning, and that's for people in the countries who are want to listen to it but can't because it's either a because in the world like it's daytime here, it's nighttime in Australia. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's an example. I
Yeah.
like to also give them a chance. So I figured the way to give them a chance is let them have first dibs. So we're going to have them go first. And then when it's our turn, when we start waking up in the morning, eating our breakfast, you can listen to the podcast too. And if you want to wait at 1 a.m., whatever it is, hey, that's your call. But I like to give everyone a chance. It's very diverse and inclusive.
Sure. So is it just you? Because I know throughout my journey, like the logo that I have, I'm not an artistic person. If you give me a pen and a paper, I can write very well. I can write a story, but I cannot draw to save my life. So I had to go to Fiverr, and pay somebody like 50, $100 or whatever for like the drawing. I severely overpaid for it. And still trying to figure out like intro music, and like there's all these things that like I feel like constantly change, that having somebody else, like somebody else's input or having somebody else bring something to the table is beneficial. But there's also something to say about doing it all yourself. So is everything you? Because you're not just the audio, you're not just the YouTube, you have the website. And on your website, it's very informational. It's not like my website's very simple. It's just a basic podcast website. To where yours gives out information, dates of upcoming events, calendars, and things like that. So it definitely feels like a full-time job if it is just you.
No, it's not. I have a team. I couldn't do it if it was just me. I'd probably screw something up. Too bad. But I have a team. The board helps out. I have people I can go to if I need a question. The new website that was done by someone we have. And what's cool about the logo you were talking about is that was not my first logo. My first logo was an ordinary picture I found on Google. Well, it got boring and we evolved. So my mentor, who was also my media co-advisor, kind of elevated the design a little bit, and now I have a logo. And what's cool is when I was a little kid, for some reason, one of my special interests for a periodic time was logos. I loved logos. Like I thought they were pieces of art. I thought they were cool. And I thought, man, wouldn't it be cool to have my own logo and my own business? Now I do. I have my own logo and a business. What the heck?
Yeah, and it's amazing, man. How did you go about getting like the board of advisors and all this team to help you? Because that doesn't just fall in your lap traditionally. It's something you have to like go out and work for and find.
You're right, it didn't, but it kind of did fall in my lap. So our two board members, the president and the vice president, just wanted to help out, and they supported me fully. But then the board, we also started asking people around. We had a couple of connections we used, and then I did utilize my grandfather, who's a big supporter. He's also on the board because I knew, even though he's my grandfather and they don't like family being on, I knew he would be fair, A, and B, I wouldn't still feel, I wouldn't comfortable if I had a family member. I probably would not be doing it because I needed a net of safety.
Sure. Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense, especially when you're dealing with business, because it seems like everybody has an angle. Everybody, it's, going into law school, I'm learning a lot about contracts, and the contract, the first look, it can be amazing, but there could be one line in there that completely screws you over, and you realize that it's because it's business, and it's all about trying to get the most points on your side. So I can 100% see why you would want a family member on your side. It's very smart to do. Um,
Yeah.
so how else has the podcast affected your life? I mean, obviously you've been able to start traveling and you've gained this community of people. Do you feel like it's also given you a sense of like confidence or kind of become a part of your personality to kind of give you a social boost?
Yeah, I think it has because what I want to do is do more clearly. Because right now in the business, they say kiddingly, I'm the product. Like I am the person who is weirdly enough shaping the world, and I am. But I want more than that. Because I don't want to be the product. I want resources out there to help other people.
Okay. So what do you have lined up for the future? Like what plans do you have for the podcast and for yourself that you have coming up besides the the pumpkin um, project you were talking about?
Pumpkin patch, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, I know, and hopefully, we just my mother, who's also a part of the nonprofit, sent her book, and it's going to be part of Autism Rocks and Rolls, so it's kind of my book too, technically. But we sent our book to Future Horizons, and it's going to be called Journey, and it's going to be about this girl on the spectrum who is obsessed with nature and trees. The storyline, though, is she's giving a tour to children about nature, but she has flashbacks of her childhood that are autism moments.
Okay. Is this something that you helped write?
Yeah, I helped out, but I but I didn't do the formatting.
Hmm. Just kind of like putting down like the basic skeletal ideas of things and inputs and stuff like that.
No, that was my mother mainly. I just kind of added to it and
Oh, okay.
edited, critiqued it a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So when can we expect to see that coming out?
That's a good question. I have no idea. That ask Future Horizons that. That's their question.
Yeah, I've talked to a few a few people on the podcast that have had books, and the book business seems like it is just so stressful. Like I don't understand it at all, especially when it gets into audiobooks. But I've also known and worked with people that have written books and published them on Amazon themselves. With zero help, just kind of put them on Amazon, and they would be printed and sold, or like as they were ordered, or even just digital copies. And even in just
I,
doing that, it's extremely stressful. So good luck on trying to get this thing out there. It sounds like it's definitely going to help out a lot of people. um, so yeah, I know I told you about 45 minutes to an hour, so I'll get you out of here pretty soon. I guess my biggest question, or not question, is just my biggest curiosity. This is kind of two parts, I guess. Is do you feel like you have a disadvantage? Like, do you feel like you're missing out on something because of autism, or has your perspective been you feel like you've been given a gift? Because I've heard both, and I'm just very curious to see kind of where you land on that.
Well, I had missed some opportunities. I had missed driving at an early age. I mean, I got my license, but I don't drive because I'm too nervous of killing someone, and I feel like there's too much going on. I missed the fact that I cooked my first meal for my parents. I missed experiences. I missed prom. I didn't go for two reasons. One, because I knew it would be a pain in the butt deal because of the exclusion, and just my clothes. I don't like wearing a suit and tie. Not the guy who likes to dress up. I'm going to stay out of that. So yeah, I missed some experiences. I won't deny it,
Hmm.
but I've also had some great experiences that not a lot of people can say they've done. In my opinion, they can't say they've sung with the Hair Bangers Ball in Bloomington, Indiana, which is a big famous local band. If you're from that area, they can't say they've hired NE's own Duke Tomato. They can't say they plan an Autism Rocks and Rolls gala and hosted Temple Grandin. They can't say that for the majority that they can't say for the majority they've hung out with these big celebrities. They've probably met one or two of them, but they
Sure.
haven't met lots of people with big names.
Well,
I'd rather have that than going to prom.
yeah, and the thing is it doesn't sound like you're just meeting these people. That's one of the great things about this podcast or about the podcasting world is you get a chance to really have a conversation with these people. And I've made countless friends just from my show. Like if I go through my phone, like one of the closest people that I can chat with is like Mark Coleman and Antonio McKee, and they are legends in the MMA world, like Hulk Hogan status type thing, like Mark Coleman, like just legends. And now with the merger with the UFC and the WWE, I'm finding that there's actually a lot of crossover in stories, and so I've been kind of getting some invites from some of those guys of, hey, you should have this wrestler on it and things like that. And so it's you're not just having conversations, like, hey, how's it going, thanks for doing this thing. You actually get to make relationships with these people, so it's a lot more meaningful and lasts longer than dressing up in an ugly suit and going and dancing to some music at a prom or something like that. So that's definitely
Yeah, I
amazing.
met Mick Foley 5 times. Like I talked to him once through a meet and greet way before Autism Rocks and Rolls, two through twice, and then the rest through Autism Rocks and Rolls because his son's on the spectrum, and that's a big connection for you. But that's my point right there. I'm not going to go to prom if I can go see Mick Foley and hang out with someone famous. I mean, that's going to get you a big status. People like, what, you hung out with him? People, well, others be like, oh, you just went to high school prom like every other American or the majority of Americans do. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And Mick Foley is a character in himself. I can't even count how many characters he played on TV. But from what I've heard, having conversations with him is amazing. It's where he's a real down to earth, friendly person. Is that how you experienced it?
Oh, yeah, he is. I'll tell you from experience. Most humble person, down to earth. You'll probably not feel better yourself leaving, but he definitely has a good heart and his work right now. He's kind of reminds me of me almost because after losing, like not losing, but after leaving WWE, he did something else and they did something else.
Mhm.
I'd rather do that. Like I'm doing a podcast, but I want to do something else. I want to do something else. I want to do something else. So we kind of have the same goals.
Sure. Yeah. That's also ADD. Just so you know, that's also part of the ADHD is always wanting to do something else. But no, it's amazing to have aspirations and goals. So, all right, I got two more questions for you, solid questions, and then I'll let you go. The first one is you were at the beginning of this, you were talking about, and I believe your website said 1 in 54 or something like that. But that's changed. You said 1 in 29, or it was, I'm making the numbers up. It was right around there. Um, do you feel like there are more people that should get tested? If they're kind of like afraid of it, or they feel like they may be on the spectrum, but they're not sure. Do you feel like there's any advantages or disadvantages to going through that process of finding out, if they're on the spectrum or not?
They're both, but I think if you're at an old age, I think it'd be kind of cool just to know. I think you should get tested, period. But you will have some advantages and disadvantages depending on the age. One disadvantage probably is you'll miss out on opportunities. But what the advantage is if you find your group, trust me, it was meant to be.
Hmm.
So whether you have alcoholism, OCD, find the group that you
Yeah.
belong in. Because I know it might take you to the age at 60, but if you find a group before you die, that's enough for me. And most people on the spectrum can't live fulfilled lives.
What, they can't live fulfilled lives?
No, they can. They can live
Oh, okay.
fulfilled lives.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
They can
Yeah. Okay.
live. They can live fulfilled lives. They can live amazing lives. And people who are blind, yeah, they hate it probably that they can't drive or they can't see their lovely family's face.
Right.
But they can still do amazing talent. They can still do amazing opportunities.
Yeah, definitely. It almost seems like it's a. So I have a very rare form of cancer, and I look at it as something that I get to overcome to still do what you do and be better at it than you. And it's almost like this thing of like, I mean, you had a head start, if it's a mile race or whatever, you had a head start in not having this condition, and I still beat you. And so it's kind of something that I've used as a way of fuel instead of feeling like a victim a lot, because I feel like that could be commonplace in getting tested, or being afraid of it. And so the last thing that I wanted to speak about is probably one of the most informational, or maybe not. But what would you say the largest difference is between like the population that is not on the spectrum compared to the population that is on the spectrum? And what would you like the people that are curious about autism to know?
Well, I want them to know is yeah, we think differently. And yeah, we may use some unrealistic solutions and harmful and think out of the box and ideas that are crazy. But aren't we kind of just like you because we're both humans, right? A. And
Hmm?
B, even though we think differently, that doesn't mean that we can't collaborate with each other.
Yeah. Do you is it something that you feel like you need to bring up? Almost like preface when you meet someone.
Um, I think not really. I mean, a lot of people do just because of the safety net, and I get it. But if it happens, I will. If it doesn't, oh well. But if they have a like a scratch in the head moment, then I'm like, oh okay, hey, this is why I'm on the autism spectrum, man. If this happens, this is why I do it. It's not the fact that I'm weird. I'm on the autism spectrum. I
Yeah.
apologize, I can't help it, but it is what it is.
No, that's amazing, man. I've really enjoyed speaking with you. Very happy you came on. Thank you. Very grateful you came on, and you're willing to share your story, and you didn't hold back. Um, you've been an amazing person. I'm sure we're going to keep in contact. Is there a way you can give out your social medias and kind of where everybody can find your podcast, and that way you can have people reach out to you, or be able to follow you from this show?
Yeah, you could find me on your favorite media platforms, Spotify, Pandora, YouTube. If you think I'm there, I'm probably there. And just Google me if really. Don't Google Sam Mitchell because nothing will pop up. But Autism Rocks and Rolls, something will pop up.
Okay. All right. I will put all of that in the show notes. Make sure that your website's linked and try to get as much traffic over to you as I can from my side. But again, this has been amazing. Thank you for coming on. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your day, man. And thanks you one more time. All right. Take it easy, Sam.
All right, man. Hey, had a good one, man. Let me know when this comes out, buddy.
Yeah, I definitely will.
All right.
All right.
All
Take
right,
it
you
easy,
take
man.
care now. Yep. We'll keep
Have a
in
good
touch.
one.
Bye bye.